Okay, 4 hands and 6, okay. So the challenge in finance is that sometimes we always feel like we never have enough, like it can't seem to meet or match. And I have to tell you a story once. I was dealing with a politician, and one of their members in the office was in a very distressed state. And the state that she was in was that she kept going for a raise. I want a raise, I need a raise. I put in a lot of hours and time, and I give even extra. I deserve a raise. And for months, she was coming to me at the meditation museum, and I also knew the politician that she was working with because I also counsel him too. And one of the things that emerged from my lips was, have you ever thought of reducing your desires? Her face dropped, her weave fell off, and she lost 10 pounds. It was like the thought didn't enter her mind. And I'm just throwing out this real life situation to us because our solution to some of our greatest challenges might just be just one thought of interpretation. It might be just the way I'm actually interpreting my situation that would actually help me to overcome the scenario. And that's what I want to share with us tonight. I want to talk about yours and my interpretation in terms of the way we look at ourselves, the way that we look at business, and the way we look at these relationships that we cannot run away from. Have you ever had a relationship with someone where the more you try to run away from them, the more they found you? Those are the best ones. You know, you can even walk the other way of the room and they're just right there, hi, you know, like, and you're just, you know, in that state. And you question what's going on here on an energetic level. That many times when we try to get away from something, it gets amplified. And I have been practicing a particular technique. There is something within our being. This body is the container, and the energy that is moving my hands and moving the lips and listening to the air is called Atma, Kru, spirit, light, or the energy. Okay. So this energy is functioning inside of this container. And the energy in the container has gained experiences as a result of using the container. Based on the experiences, the energy begins to interpret itself. Example, if I've experienced a lot of sorrow, I will interpret happiness even as a means of sorrow. Or I will have a moment of happiness and I will keep waiting for sorrow to come because I'm not supposed to be happy for that long of a period of time. You ever, I don't know, anyone here is Jamaican? Oh, Sister Keys is Jamaican. There you go. One Jamaican in the room. Bob Marley's being represented. There's a saying in Jamaican that says, when chicken happy, hog dinner. And what that means is when the little chicken is really happy and just running around all by herself, there's a hawk just waiting to come and eat her up. And some of us tend to have this consciousness that even if I'm too happy, something's about to give. Something within our own interpretation tends to shift that or turn that. Tonight I want it to be intimate, and I want us to explore some dimensions, and it is my intent that you will leave with something of a tool, something that will shift the way you spend your money, earn your money, and the way that you relate to others. These two particular things weigh heavily on that energy that's sitting in the container. Heavily. So let's start with a question. I would like you to think about a relevant situation that you are encountering in terms of either finance or relationship. I want you to think about it, whether it's someone at work, whether it's someone at home, or whether it's a friend or a relative or some connection that every time you connect with them, something in you is not inspired to be benevolent. I want you to think about a very relevant situation that you are encountering. Think about it. Think about it deeply. And I'd like you to ask yourself the question, what does it require to fix this? Just ask the question, what does it require to fix this? What does it require to fix this? And then thinking about it, do you feel like the answer is sitting in you instantly? Did the answer come instantly, or was it an encyclopedia answer? Anyone, did an answer come for you quickly? The answer is difficult. Okay. What if we were to question once again what it is that you feel as I can now begin to deal with this situation in this way. If you were to say, I want to deal with this person in this situation in this way, would it be easier for you to find a solution? Yeah. Have you ever questioned why it's so hard for us to just turn that around and say, all this person wants me to do with them is for me to treat them this way, or for me to come with this angle, but for the life of me, it's the hardest thing for me to do. What's blocking me? What are your answers? What's blocking you from actually solving that situation? Any ideas? Ego of the self, good answer. Any other ideas? Any other ideas? Fear, good. What's blocking you from solving the situation? Once somebody told me time. Anyone else? A lack of compassion. Once I heard I was in the wrong place at the right time. That was a very interesting one. I have found that one of the most challenging steps to take to transform a situation that's not working is my ability to turn around my interpretation of it. Hold that for a minute. And I would like for you in your mind to turn around the interpretation of the situation that you just played in your mind. Does it work differently for you? Would it work differently for you? Would your mind be lighter? Would your heart be easier? Would your relationship with the person be better? Would you feel more free? So turning around the interpretation is one of the most important things to begin to practice tonight. There is a need for us to release our interpretation of the situations that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. On our 1-year radio show, I got this from Michelle Roper, And Michelle was saying that her father had passed away recently, and her mother grappled with the passing away of her husband. And as challenged as her mother was to lose her husband for 40 or 50 years, Michelle turned to her mother and said, "Mom, I'm just asking you to release the interpretation of how you're seeing the loss of Dad. Just release the interpretation, Mom. We can't get him back. But we can begin to be aware of all the amazing things we used to enjoy with Dad." So the releasing of the interpretation becomes a means to not only set the soul free, but to really set us up to becoming more powerful. There's nothing more debilitating for that soul that's sitting in a container than feeling powerless and totally out of your dignity and your self-respect because you don't want to change the situation in your head first. In your head first. In your head. I had a supervisor, a boss, and anyone here has a supervisor? Anyone here love their supervisor? Anyone here has a strain with their supervisor? Okay. I had a supervisor who, actually the first 6 months, she thought I was just a saint on the floor. Like, oh my gosh, this was a blessing that we got her. But then after the first 6 months, there was a shift in consciousness in our relationship. You like how I said that? A shift in consciousness in the relationship. And I'm not quite sure to this date what I did, because I was really only being me. And what was happening with doing me and being me, there were some insecurities that were being emerged. I was getting a lot more attention, promotions, recognitions, not thinking that I was trying to ooze her out. I was just happy to be, oh my God, I was being seen. That was like really important at that time. You're in your 20s. You don't want to be seen when you're in your 20s. When you're in your 50s, you don't want nobody to see you. You know, it's just different. But I remembered the first 2 or 3 years, the self-worth issues that I had to deal with. What was wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? What is in my energy of karma that I would attract this? I would try everything in my power to make it work, and it wouldn't work. And on the end of my 3rd year, I remembered sitting in silence, and I remembered going into my book of treasures of my soul. And the theme emerged and it said, Jenna, your good deeds will never go to waste. Never. And that your good deeds will be your protection. So that morning when I had to deal with her, I allowed my mind to accept that whether she was accepting or appreciating me or not, I had so much ego that my ego said, I'm not going to have any waste thoughts about her. Because the only way I can conquer her is to only have good thoughts. I can't beat her at that game. And I cannot tell you till this day that has worked, served me, empowered me, and protected me. And even if she had an influence on my life today, she couldn't do anything to me. I haven't gone into her field of negativity. And I'm giving you a practical example here. I would walk into the office and she would walk out. We would be in board meetings and she would condemn me in front of the whole meeting. She would basically defame my whole character in the company, because once you're defamed in a whole company at higher level, there's no chance for you to grow. Remember that, it's political. So what happened was, internally, I kept reminding and believing my good deeds cannot go to waste. And whether or not she accepted my gifts, my good wishes, or my showing up to do my job effectively, it was going in my account. And I've seen where decades had passed, and I still bump into her on occasions. I do. And I'll lean into her. Hey. And you know why I do that? It's ego with a little bit of self-respect, and I'll explain why. I need to know that I've become an embodiment of good wishes. So when I would lean into her field, I would be checking if I had any nervousness, any fear, or if I was picking up any dirt. But every time you lean into your situations with relationships, a method is to check how you're feeling as you're leaning into the position. Go back and rewind a wheel in your mind with a relationship that you're having a strain with. And the last thing you will do is lean into the relationship. You would separate. And that pulling back in separation is deactivating your power to love and be your power. So leaning in is to say, I am the powerful one. Hey, how you doing? And that alone is your check. You're not trying to control or manipulate anyone. You need to break your fears and your own inhibitions in yourself. And you can't do it sitting in your cubicle or in your office in the corner, okay, because they're 10 doors down and they're fine, and so you send them good wishes. You will only know if your good wishes has power when you can lean into them. Never forget this, please. It has worked for me, and I know it'll work for you. Now, don't go leaning up in the person's face going, hi. And inside you're like, oh, a mess. Don't do that. You gotta work on you, you know, and know that you have already first started your good deeds. I know my good deeds in this company will not go to waste. And I want to emphasize this for all of you who work in offices, in businesses, or major corporations. Never think, however small and mediocre your part is, that it doesn't count. It is not true. I run a huge international business, which is really global. And from the person who shows up to clean the steps, to the person who organizes my scheduling, to the person who prepares food, to the person who puts the stuff in the envelope, to the person who does the web designing and the emailing, everyone is vital. And if you're in a role of leadership and you are dealing with everyone that you think is under you, success in your role will always come in the fact that you look at them as the most important person for your company. Their minds will feel it, and their hearts will belong to the vision that you hold as the leader. Again, I'm only telling you what I have used in my own life and have seen the proof of that. The minute I catch myself ever thinking, and I honestly don't at this time, but there are moments when I remembered maybe when somebody in the team wasn't aware of how important they were to the game, but they were going through something. So they became extremely irresponsible to their area of duty. I would get extremely affected. And the reason why I'm affected is because of one word. One word. attachment. I'm either attached to the role that I play, think about it, or I'm attached to the title that I have earned, or I'm attached to the hierarchy within this relationship. And it is the consciousness or the intention of attachment that gets interpreted in the relationships with people at work. In so many occasions. Is there anyone in this room that is sitting in these chairs who doesn't feel that you're worthy and important? You don't think you're worthy, you don't think you're important. Not all the time. In general, don't we generally walk with a sense that I'm good, I'm okay, I am better than that one. If somebody spoke to you in a rude way or with disrespect, how do you react? So some of us will respond with love, and some of us would be like, who are you talking to like that? Oh, you need to go outside with me right now, right? And then what happens is that reaction is basically saying, I think I'm just as good as you are, so who are you to speak to me in this way? Okay? So we all have an attachment, a sense of value to ourselves, period. When I come in and give my 8 hours to a company, or 10 hours to a company, or 12 hours to a company, I come with a sense that I'm important. So when my leadership speaks to me as if I'm not that important and I can be replaced, you've lost me. You've lost my contribution to your company. You've lost my showing up with the best of intent, and I'm only coming for a paycheck. I don't need anything else from you. But the success of corporations and companies I have seen, and even the military currently, is working on a program to build relationships within the military, because there's become a huge need in building of relationships more than anything else. In Thailand, there's a culture that there was a man who had a tree that was growing over the other man's yard, and it was just making a royal mess. So there was a Western journalist that I interviewed, Eric Weiner, and Eric told the man, why don't you just cut down this tree and go tell him, just clean up the mess. And the man in Thai said to him, in our country here, the relationship is more important than winning the war. Now that could be a little bit tricky, you know, because sometimes you want your relationships to be upfront and clear, you know, helps. But relationships are the key. And so when you are a leader, if you want to really master your business, have it rooted in your culture that your staff is important to you. Now, if your staff and your boss has no value or respect from you, they will need your compassion. It goes back to the formula of when I was with that supervisor who totally had it in for me. And I went through my own self-esteem issues, but I knew my good wishes and my good deeds wouldn't go to waste. Your boss, your CFOs, and your CEOs, they carry the strain of the numbers. They carry the strain of the numbers. And if those numbers are not matching, fear gets emerged. Because it might be that it's their own job security, but it's also about the staff security that they also think of, that they have a job. So I have found that in higher management, or with CFOs or CEOs, if you have one that doesn't see your gifts, it is important to protect yourself and see theirs. You will not lose. You will not lose. You will not lose. And when you walk into that office tomorrow morning and you see that leader with a gift, you have conquered that moment for you. You're not wasting your time in that office. I have a question. Appreciate it, appreciate it. Yeah, don't you love that? I know, right? Well, I come from a very big family, and I don't think I get thank yous much anymore. It goes back to maybe that point that I'm making. Have deep conviction and faith. Good deeds will never go to waste. So, even when my family calls me when they need me, and then when I'm finished doing what they need me to do, they're done. Okay, bye. See you later. I don't even get a call 6 months later until there's something wrong. Know that when you show up for the right reasons. If you show up to please them, you're not going to be satisfied. The intention from where you're coming from, or the interpretation from where you're coming from, that's not going to serve you. I want us to go back to interpretation. If the soul inside of my container is playing a role that it is important for me to satisfy my family's needs, even though I don't feel their appreciation, my question to myself would be, is why am I interpreting that I'm not appreciated? They keep calling me. You know what I'm saying? Got it? So there are times in which the way that we are understanding things might need just a little shifting. I have the fortune of just loving people. And I feel that when folks come into the space that I'm in, I consider you to be mine. You're my family. I don't have a problem with you. And I'll have, friends and students and contacts that'll come and pour your heart out, and they'll call me for a whole week, and for 6 years I don't see them. But when something is wrong, I'll be the first one that they'll call. Because the interpretation in their minds of me is, when I call Sister Jenna, it'll get better. They don't need to have coffee with me as busboy employees. They don't need to go hang out with me at the beach and have a suntan, because I'm already tanned. They don't need to go and take me to, a dinner or something. So their interpretation of me is, I'll feel better when I'm finished with her. So I can't walk and go, why doesn't anyone call me just to go bowling or something? It's not their interpretation of me. And so there was a company with this corporate exec, Jane, and Jane was actually brought on board because the company was in a crisis management, a crisis situation. So when Jane came in, for the first 3 years, Jane took the company out of crisis. But Jane got someone called Leslie, and Leslie was working next to her. But for the life of Jane, Jane felt Leslie wasn't really doing the job to help with the managing of the crisis of the company. So they went through a lot of challenges and situations with each other. And they had a company meeting, and they raised some questions in the company with each other. What can Jane do to become a better manager? What should Jane do to be more effective with her team? How is it that Jane, as the leader, can actually shift Leslie, that Leslie can actually do her job more prominently in the way that she was meant to do her role? Then one person raised the question to Jane and to the group, but isn't the crisis of the company over, so is your position even needed? And Jane's jaw dropped. She never thought that she had actually already done her job. And she was just in the company hanging. So it was an organizational issue. It wasn't Jane's issue. And I think many organizations are grappling with what to do with pieces of people who have fulfilled their roles and could be more effective somewhere else. And so some of the conflicts that we encounter in the workplace are conflicts that are based on that simple interpretation. This part of the company is not needed anymore. How do we transfer it into something else? Scary, but real. But real, you know? So again, it becomes an interpretation issue, you know? And if you've ever been in a situation at work or in a marriage where you seem to be showing up with the same routine that you've always showed up with, and you've heard this before, you want some different sort of a result, but you don't get it. You get angry with yourself, you get frustrated, you feel powerless, and the worst thing that we do, we blame authority or higher-ups, or our colleagues. But if we look at the way that it's actually being interpreted, perhaps it's really no longer suitable for the times that we're in. But we have to interpret and make those calls. Or we're going to be in an office with a bunch of miserable people, all nitpicking with each other's issues and not moving that company forward. There's something in our group and our team, and Antonio knows it all the time. We call it Mani Bindan. Can you decode that? I know those of you from India can decode that one, right? Mani Bindan? Mani Bindan means mind your own business. Mind your business. Because every time you come out of your container to get caught up in somebody else's world that is in their container, you have lost a whole bunch of time and energy in what you could be doing with your container. And Antonia and I will always go through this, you know, because we're with so many people and so many issues all the time. And I'll just turn to her, and I give her that mind your business look. And she just, mind your business. Just mind your business. Don't go there. It's not your business, it's not my business, it's theirs. Don't waste your valuable time in somebody else's issues. Please use your mantra, mind your business. Just do that. Life just becomes so much easier when you just do that.
And then the society will become isolated and so much selfish.
Turn on the light.
And your business.
Mind your No, no. We will never become a society that doesn't care for anyone because we're too much in each other's business. But the formula of mind your business is important because majority of the time that we're not minding our business, we're caught up in people's gossip and people's issues. That's where that works. If I see that somebody is milking money out of the company, and I'm seeing that $1 billion is going to a Cayman account, do you mind your business? Or do you say something? You go to that man and tell him to give me a cut. You need to learn how to mind your business, right? The moral of the story is this. The moral of the story is, it's happy hour with a yogi, no? The moral of the story is that when you show up, when it's very damaging for the self and for the company, you must bring forward the proper ideas and thoughts. When you are wasting your time in the little nitpicking games, how many of you at work look at your colleague's outfit and go, oh, what did she put on today? I can't believe she wore that to work today. Oh my God. How many times have you done that? That's called not minding your business. So the moment you see yourself, and this is how it'll feel, right? She walks past you and you're in and there's a whole drama going on and you're like, and then you wink to each other. You see, Kim knows what I'm talking about. And right then and there, before it goes any further, mind your business, Kim, mind your business, mind your business. And as you bring yourself back, you'll feel a real sense of freedom. You really feel a sense of freedom, like, you know what? To her, that looked real good. And that's her business, you know? And I used to have a student, she worked for one of the embassies. She was one of the diplomats. And she was from Brazil. And this was years ago. And she would come every morning to the center, to the meditation center. And I would literally have to do as much as I could in the class to distract everyone from looking at her. Mind, she would come with purple with some fuchsia, black, green, olive, and then shoes that would not match anything, and the hair, you know, and it was such an image that I would literally have to tell everyone in the classroom, why are you looking? It's art. Just appreciate the art. It's okay, it's art. You know, because you don't want to keep accumulating waste. When we accumulate waste in the soul becomes stressed. And something as simple as a deadline at work becomes horrendous, even though I'm qualified to do the deadline. Internally, I'm stressed. I don't have what it takes because I've been adding some waste to it. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to throw out a little exercise for you to play, and then I'd like to open up for any questions that you might have to ask me, which I'd be happy to exchange. Wherever you're sitting with whomever, I'd like you to find a partner. And after you found a partner, one person can start to share how their day went today. And the other person, in about 30 seconds or 45 seconds into their sharing, say to them, change it. And then you're supposed to reinterpret the way that you told how your story went. And then in another 30 to 45 seconds, tell them, change. Then you have to keep refining the story and changing it again until you feel like you got to, really, what was today about again? So it'll be like this. Let's say that I'm telling you, well, today I got up late and I didn't do 4 o'clock meditation. And, well, I went to bed late, and I know I should have gone to bed early, and I missed my meditation, and that made nobody want to tell me to say change? Help me, please, here. Well, actually, I was lazy. And my pillow was much more comfortable than me getting up to do my meditation. There's something that happens when you keep changing your reasoning and your interpretation. You get to a point that you end up with your true story. You ready to play that game? So one person share their story of the day, and the other person who's listening, just give them about maybe 3 or 4 rounds of change, right? And then switch roles. And then the other person will tell the story and then do change. You ready? Find a partner.